I still remember the first time I saw the house. It was a plain split level in the older part of town. The kind of home with faded shingles, a crooked mailbox, and a yard that had long since given up hope. But I saw potential. I always saw potential, even when others didn't. Maybe that was my biggest flaw. My name is Jenna, and I was 25 when I bought the house. Well, when I started the mortgage at least. It wasn't for me. It was for them. My mom, my stepdad Rick, and my little half-brother Mason. They were drowning in debt, facing eviction from their rented duplex. Mom cried on the phone one night, saying she didn't know how much longer they could keep it together. I hadn't even finished unpacking in my new apartment across town, but the guilt hit fast and deep. "I'll figure something out," I said, and I did. I cashed out what was left of my college fund. I sold my car. I took a second job as a night shift admin at the hospital. I gave up sleep, weekends, dating, everything. And within 6 months, I had the down payment. The bank didn't love my income ratio, but I fought for that loan. Because I believed family came first. The house was put in my name. The mortgage, mine. The bills, mine. But I moved out of my apartment and handed the keys to them. "I'll just crash in the guest room for a bit," I'd said. That bit turned into 3 years. And in those 3 years, I watched the house become theirs. They painted over the walls I had chosen. Rick threw out my bookshelves and replaced them with a giant mounted TV. My mom started introducing the place as our home, never Jenna's. When Mason got a puppy, untrained and always peeing, guess who cleaned up after it? I started feeling like the live-in maid, or worse, the guest. But I kept quiet, because family, because loyalty, because that damn word grateful hung over me like a sentence. Then last December, after years of double shifts, freelance gigs, and side hustles, I made the final payment. 30 years of payments, paid off in less than 5. The bank mailed the final mortgage release letter to me. I remember standing at the kitchen table with the envelope in hand, shaking. Rick was watching football, and Mom was folding laundry. "I paid off the house," I said, holding the letter like a trophy. Rick didn't even look away from the screen. "Cool," Mom said. "That's great, sweetie. Could you run to the store? We're out of milk." I laughed, but it came out wrong. It cracked on the way up. 1 week later, I'd gone out to grab coffee and groceries, and when I came back, my key didn't work. First, I thought maybe the lock was jammed. I jiggled it, tried the bottom lock, the knob. Nothing. Then I rang. The doorbell, Rick answered. Only opened the door halfway. His eyes were calm, like he'd been waiting for this. "Mom said you'd probably come by," he said. "Come by? I live here." "Actually, you don't. Not anymore." My heart stopped. "What?" "We changed the locks this morning. It's better this way, Jenna. You're always so tense. We thought you'd want space." I laughed, a dry, stunned bark. "You changed the locks. On me? Look, the house is in your name. You can call it whatever you want. But we live here. We made it a home. You just kind of float through. You don't really belong here anymore." He shut the door, just like that. I sat in my car for hours, didn't cry, didn't scream, just stared. I didn't go to the police. What would I even say? My mom and stepdad kicked me out of my own house? No, I needed time to think. Because they weren't clever. They were comfortable. That's what made them sloppy. They didn't know I had duplicates of every document, scanned and encrypted. That I had the deed, the insurance. That I'd kept emails and texts. That I'd been logging every utility payment, every deposit, every receipt tied to that house. That I still had access to the smart meter, the cameras, the Wi-Fi router, the bank they'd refinanced their credit cards through. They thought they'd outplayed me, but they forgot who built the board. For the first time in 3 years, I slept somewhere that wasn't under that leaky vent in the guest room, the one Rick never fixed. I booked a cheap motel on the edge of town. Cracked mirror, scratchy sheets, but privacy. And silence. Beautiful, necessary silence. I stared at the ceiling all night, heart thudding in rhythm with my anger. Not loud rage, no, it was quiet now. Cold. Focused. I didn't text them. Didn't call. Let them believe whatever lie they were telling themselves. That I'd given up. That I'd disappeared. That I was weak. They were used to me keeping the peace. Apologizing. Folding first. But I was done folding. The next morning, I sat in a coffee shop across the street from the law office of Mr. Harold Benz, the man who handled the closing paperwork when I bought the house. He was older, slicked back hair, cufflinks that glinted when he shook your hand. The kind of lawyer you hire for friendly family deals, assuming everything will stay civil. I hadn't seen him since the day I signed the deed, but he remembered me. Said he was surprised to hear from me. "Your file is still in the system," he said, fingers clicking over the keyboard. "I'll email you a fresh copy of the title documents. It's all still in your name, of course." "Can they kick me out if I'm the legal owner?" "No." "Not legally. If they change the locks, that's, well, technically unlawful occupancy. Especially since there was no lease or rental agreement. You could file a notice to vacate or go through formal eviction proceedings if you want." I smiled. "No rush." He looked at me strangely. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I will be." I started small. Day 1, I shut off the internet. I owned the router and the ISP account. Had paid it under my name for years. It took Rick 2 hours to realize it. I watched him try to reset it 6 times through the router app. The network changed from Henderson Home to You Shouldn't Have. Day 2, I changed the thermostat, dropped it to 52°F at midnight, turned it back up at 6 a.m. Rick posted on Facebook that their system was glitching. Day 3, I forwarded all mail to my new P.O. box. Utility bills, bank statements, and Mom's dumb subscription to Southern Home Living. Anything connected to that address. I watched her leave the mailbox empty-handed, squinting into the morning sun, clearly confused. Day 4, I shut off the water. It wasn't a full shut-off, just a service pause for maintenance. A phone call and a few verification details were all it took. They called me 8 times that day. I didn't answer. That weekend, I saw Mason at the gas station. He didn't notice me at first, just shuffled past me, hoodie up, earbuds in. But then he froze, turned, met my eyes. "Jenna?" "Hey." "Bud." He looked uncomfortable, guilty, but not surprised. "Mom said you were traveling." "Is that what she told you?" He nodded slowly. She said you moved out. That you gave us the house as a gift. I smiled, not because it was funny, because I knew she'd say something like that. And you believed her? He looked down. No, not really. That night, I wrote my first official email to my lawyer. Subject: Notice of Occupant Removal, I. Harold, please draft a formal notice of unlawful occupancy for the property at address. I'll sign it tomorrow. They have 30 days. Thanks, Jenna. But the eviction wasn't the point. They thought they'd removed me, that they could live freely in a house I bled for. But I didn't want to just reclaim the space. I wanted them to feel it. Slowly, bit by bit. I wanted them to realize they weren't as clever as they thought, that their comfort was borrowed, their entitlement, temporary. I wanted every light switch, every cold shower, every missing piece of mail to whisper my name. They made their choice. Now they could live with it. I didn't know revenge could be this quiet. No slammed doors, no shouting matches, no dramatic confrontations. Just a subtle hand on the thermostat, a flick of a digital switch, a missed utility payment. Silence had become my most loyal weapon, and it was working. By the second week, they started leaving the porch light on 24/7, probably afraid I'd come back in the night. Like a burglar, like the threat they had created in their own heads. I didn't need to knock anymore. I was already inside, not physically, but in every corner of the house they tried to steal from me. I had cameras they didn't know about. A discreet ring cam on the side gate, a motion sensor under the back porch light. The Nest Cam still synced to my phone. They never changed the Wi-Fi password. Didn't even realize I had access to the doorbell camera. I watched as Mom stood on the front steps yelling into her phone. She did what? I swear to God, she's turning off the water again. This isn't funny. No, Rick, I don't care. Fix it. Fix it. I watched her bang on the pipes like it was the plumbing's fault. And that same night, the living room camera caught Rick standing under the vent with a towel and a bucket. That leak? The one I asked him to fix 2 years ago? It had finally burst. Was patient. I didn't want them gone too soon. That would be too easy. They needed to marinate in the discomfort. To realize that I had never been the problem. I had been the foundation. The one who made everything run, while they took it for granted. They missed their credit card payments that month. I know because I got an alert. Rick had connected one of his Visa cards to the same utility portal I used, and when I paused the auto pay, oops, his minimum started bouncing. Their electricity bill doubled. Why? Because I removed the energy saver setting from the HVAC system. I was surgical about it. Never enough to be illegal. Just enough to make them wonder why everything was harder than it used to be. Mason texted me that Friday. Mason, are you okay? This is getting bad. Mom is freaking out. I stared at his message, me. She changed the locks, Mason. Mason, I know. I didn't agree with it. Me, then why didn't you stop her? Mason, I don't know. I didn't think she'd actually do it. Me, now she has to live with that choice. He didn't reply. I felt a pang in my chest. Not for her, not for Rick. For Mason. He was 16. Just old enough to see betrayal, and too young to stop it. I almost softened. Almost Monday morning, I sent the formal eviction letter. The one with legal language and a 30-day deadline. The one that made it real. I CC'd Rick, Mom, and Harold the lawyer. I didn't write a message, just attach the file. 2 hours later, my phone rang. I didn't answer. It rang again. And again. By 3 p.m., Mom sent a single message. "You're seriously doing this?" I didn't reply. By 8 p.m., Rick emailed back. "You're going to destroy this family over some misunderstanding? This is our home." I finally wrote back. "No, it's my home. You tried to erase me. Now I'm just reclaiming what's mine." That night, I pulled up Zillow and edited the property listing. I wasn't selling it. Not yet. But I wanted to see what it would look like with fresh photos. I uploaded images from when I first bought the place, before Rick's recliner and the ugly red curtains, before they'd sunk their claws in. I added this note under the description field. Owner-occupied single-family home. Title is clear. No shared tenants. Clean and ready for transition. It wasn't public, just saved as a draft. But seeing it, really seeing it, sparked something in me. This wasn't just a home anymore. It was proof. Proof that I had survived. Them. Outworked them. Outlasted them. And I was only just getting started. There's something unsettling about watching people squirm in the comfort you built, when they know it's not theirs anymore, but they pretend anyway. It was subtle. At first, Rick started locking the bathroom door, even when he wasn't using it. Mom kept her purse closer, like I might sneak in at night and take something. They bought a little security camera off Amazon and installed it by the front door, thinking it would keep me out. As if plastic and pixels could stop what I'd already set in motion. The eviction notice was real, and they knew it. On the 9th day after I sent the letter, Mom showed up at the hospital where I worked. I was on shift, already 3 hours into a brutal double. She stood just outside the ER entrance in her floral cardigan, arms crossed tight against the wind. I spotted her through the glass as I was wheeling a patient back in from ambulance. Intake. My heart kicked. For a second, I thought about turning around, pretending I didn't see her, but I didn't. I walked straight up to her. "Mom," I said flatly. "Jenna." She smiled like it was a normal visit, like she wasn't squatting in my house. "You shouldn't be here." She blinked. I wanted to talk. You had plenty of time to talk, before you locked me out of my own home." Her smile flickered. "It was Rick's idea. He said it was temporary. We thought you were going to move out eventually anyway. You never really liked living there, Jenna." I laughed. Not the kind that sounded amused. The kind that sounds like glass breaking. I worked 2 jobs to pay off that mortgage. I missed birthdays. I gave up everything, and the moment it was paid, you cut me out. She flinched. "We didn't mean for it to feel like that. You're still family." "No," I said. "I'm the bank you thought you could default on without consequences." Her eyes watered. I could see the panic she'd been hiding since the locks clicked shut behind me. Maybe she thought I'd get over it. Maybe she thought I'd do what I always did. Let it go for the sake of peace. But peace isn't free, and they'd already spent every bit of mine. "I gave you a 30-day notice," I said. "You've got 21 days left. After that, I press charges. Where will we go?" "Not my problem." I turned and walked away. The next week, I noticed something odd in the smart meter history. The electricity usage had plummeted. I logged in and checked the panel. Half the house wasn't drawing power, which meant something had been shut off manually. I checked the Nest Cam archives and saw it. Rick in the garage, flipping breakers. He was trying to rig the system. A void. Bills, Avoid payment? Maybe even avoid me tracking them. I grinned. Two could play that game. That Sunday, I sent an official notice to the power company. Told them I suspected illegal tampering and requested an in-person inspection. The following Wednesday, they showed up with a technician and a clipboard. Rick wasn't home. Mom answered the door in a bathrobe, hair pinned up, face pale. They inspected the box. Found violations. Filed a citation. When she asked who reported it, they shrugged. Anonymous tip, but I knew she knew. I got another message from Mason that night. Mason, why are you doing this? They're falling apart. Me. Because they did it to me first, and no one cared when I was falling apart. Mason, I care. Me. Then step out of their shadow, or get burned with them. He didn't reply again, but I saw that he read it. 3 more bills bounced that week. Their cell service downgraded. Rick's work truck, I noticed, had a boot on the front tire when I drove past one morning. Credit scores were plummeting. Calls were going unanswered. I could feel the panic spreading behind those painted walls. Walls I had bought. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was revelation. They were finally seeing who they were without my sacrifice, without my silence. And I hadn't even knocked on the door yet. Exactly 3 weeks had passed since the eviction notice hit their inbox. 21 days of slow, steady unraveling. 21 days of silence from me. And now, the final week had begun. They didn't know it yet, but the real eviction wouldn't start with the sheriff at the door. It would start with the very thing they never valued. Accountability. I stopped by the house that morning. I didn't go inside. I didn't have to. I stood across the street in my car, tinted windows rolled halfway down. From there, I could see the yard overgrown again, the lawn unkempt, the flower beds I planted swallowed in weeds. A pile of Amazon boxes sat weather-warped on the porch. The siding was beginning to peel. The mailbox was still crooked. A perfect metaphor. Rick came out with a trash bag and heaved it into the bin like it had personally offended him. He looked thinner, angrier, more worn down. A part of me felt nothing. Another part, a small buried sliver, felt sad. Not for him. For the version of me that once begged him to see me as a daughter. For the girl who once waited at that same porch for someone to say, "Thank you." She was long gone now. Back at the motel, I laid out everything on the desk, printed copies of the mortgage release, bank statements showing payments in my name, utility bills, the formal eviction letter, notarized. I highlighted dates, double-checked notarizations, stapled legal folders shut. My lawyer Harold called that afternoon. "You ready for the filing?" "Yes," I said. "Last chance to hold back." "Let it burn." He chuckled. "You know, I underestimated you." They all did. That night I got a call from an unknown number. I normally wouldn't pick up, but something in me said I should. It was my Aunt Teresa, my mom's sister. "Jenna, sweetheart, I just heard what's going on. Your mom, she told me you're trying to evict them. She locked me out of the house I paid off Aunt T. I know. She's not denying it anymore. She's just, well, she's crying a lot lately. Says she didn't mean to hurt you." "Hurt me?" I laughed. She erased me. There was silence on the line. Then Aunt T sighed. You've always been the strong one, always the giver. But honey, sometimes when you always give, people forget it costs you something. I'm done paying their tab. I figured as much. But I wanted to tell you. Your dad would be proud. Real proud. That stopped me cold. I hadn't thought about Dad in months. He died when I was 17. Before Rick. Before Mom turned into someone I barely recognized. He was the last person who believed in my strength without ever trying to exploit it. I blinked away the heat behind my eyes. Thanks, Aunt T. I'm rooting for you. Call if you need anything. 2 days later, I got a knock on my motel door. It was Mason, hair messy, hands stuffed into his hoodie pocket, eyes heavy. I had to take the bus, he said. They didn't know I came. Why are you here? Because it's getting worse. Rick's screaming at her now. She's crying every night. They won't say it out loud, but they're scared. Good, I said. He swallowed. I'm not defending them, I swear, but I wanted to ask. What happens next? Like, legally? I let him in. Poured 2 glasses of orange juice from the motel mini fridge, sat across from him. They've got 7 days left. On the 8th, I file a writ with the court. Then the sheriff comes. If they're still there, it gets physical. Furniture out. Locks changed again. By me this time. He looked down. You're really gonna do it? I already did. He nodded, then pulled something from his backpack. It was a photo frame. Old, slightly chipped. A picture of me and Mason at his 10th birthday. I was holding the cake. He had frosting on his nose. I found this in the garage, he said. I thought you'd want it. I stared at it for a long time before reaching out and taking it. Maybe he wasn't like them. Not fully. Not yet. Thanks, I said quietly. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. You're here now. After he left, I placed the photo on the desk and opened my laptop. The file folder I'd labeled Final Strike was almost complete. Inside was everything. Evidence of unlawful occupancy, tampering with utilities screenshots, of texts, email threads, my notarized affidavit, and one final document, still pending. It was the petition to transfer full possession of the property to the rightful owner through the local housing court. If approved, it wouldn't just evict them. It would blacklist them from applying for rentals for up to 2 years. They thought I'd show mercy. They forgot mercy costs extra. Day 30. The deadline. No more letters, no more countdowns, no more waiting. I parked 3 houses down from mine. Yes, mine. And watched the house from inside my car. Engine off. Windows cracked just enough for breath. The morning sun hit the porch where they'd once stood waving me off to school, back when things were simpler. But that place, that warmth, had long since died. Now the house looked exhausted. The paint was chipped. The blinds hung uneven. A dent in the front door hadn't been fixed. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was a body wearing bruises they gave it. And I was ready to take it back. My phone buzzed. Harold, attorney. Filed with court, sheriffs. Office should call you within 24 HRs for lockout scheduling. I responded with a simple thumbs up. Today wasn't about drama. Today was about precision. At 4:27 p.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. Ms. Jensen? The voice said. This is she. This is Deputy Ramos from the County Sheriff's Department. We've been assigned the eviction at 824 Carson Lane. Would you be available Friday morning for the physical turnover? Absolutely. Please arrive by 8:30 a.m. Bring any keys or proof of ownership you'd like documented. I confirmed. My heart pounded, not with nerves, but clarity. It was happening. It was official. It was irreversible. They were going to be removed from the house I paid for, by law. That night, Mom texted again. Mom, please don't do this. We'll go. Just not with police. Mason's still a kid. This will destroy him. Too late. They'd had 30 days. They'd had 29 days to come clean, to apologize, to return the keys and face me like people with decency. But they waited until the final night, hoping I'd flinch first. Like I always used to. They didn't know this version of me. Friday, 11:58 a.m. I stood across the street again, holding the final file folder in one hand, a new set of keys in the other. I wore all black, not out of symbolism, but practicality. I didn't come to mourn. I came to reclaim. Deputy Ramos arrived in a white SUV, clipboard in hand. Calm, professional. You ready? He asked. I nodded. We walked up the path together. I noticed the porch light was still on. Maybe they'd stayed up all night. Maybe they'd known this moment was coming. He knocked, sharp, loud. Rick answered. His eyes were bloodshot, beard unshaved. For once, he didn't try to act like the man in charge. We're here to serve a legal eviction, the deputy said. You've been notified. You had 30 days. Rick didn't move. Do you have anywhere to go? I asked coldly. No answer. Then, I'd suggest you start packing. You have 2 hours before we begin moving your items curbside. That was the law. 2 hours of grace. More than they ever gave me. Mom came downstairs 15 minutes later. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not in size, in posture, in spirit. I didn't think you'd go through with it, she whispered. I gave you every chance. Her lips trembled. We didn't know how to fix it. You start by not changing the locks on the person who bought your roof. She lowered her head. Mason stood behind her, silent. He had a backpack on. He wouldn't look me in the eye. I'll take him, I said quietly to her. What? I'll help him, if he wants it. But not you, not Rick. A beat passed. Then, Mason finally spoke. I want to go. By 10:55 a.m., the sheriff posted the legal notice on the front door. By 11:08, Rick slammed the trunk of his car shut. By 11:22, they were gone. They didn't say goodbye. Just drove off. Tailpipe coughing smoke as if the car resented the weight of their choices too. I stood at the edge of the driveway, key in hand. Silence surrounding me. And then I stepped back inside my house. The air was stale. The kitchen still smelled faintly of burnt toast. Their things were gone. Their voices too. I walked from room to room like I was learning it all over again. My house. Mine. I opened the windows. Let the light in. Let the ghosts out. The silence inside the house was louder than I expected. No TV humming. No Rick's laugh crackling through the halls. No clatter of dishes Mom used to leave in the sink for me to clean. Just air. Just space. Just me. I walked from room to room, slowly, my footsteps the only sound on the worn hardwood floors. It felt surreal, not just because it was finally mine again, but because for the first time, There wasn't a single trace of them left. No framed family photos on the shelves, no cheap candles, no mess I didn't make. I stopped in the living room, the one they used to dominate. Rick's recliner was gone, finally. The wall behind it was still marked with the dirty outline where the back used to rub against the paint. I touched it lightly, feeling the roughness. That was the first wall I'd repaint. I spent the weekend tearing down curtains, boxing up leftover clutter, and disinfecting every surface. The floors had deep scuffs from where Rick had dragged his home gym equipment. The bathroom faucet had a slow leak. The kitchen grout was stained dark with grease they'd never cleaned. It was their neglect in every corner, reminders of how little they valued what I'd sacrificed to give them. But scrubbing it down felt like reclaiming my own skin. Mason stayed with Aunt Teresa for a few days. He texted me updates, short, careful messages. He didn't want to bother me, but I told him he wasn't. Me, you're not them. You never were. Come home when you're ready. Mason, thanks. Can I help with anything? Me, yeah. Bring gloves. We're repainting hell out of this place. By Thursday, he showed up. Hoodie, sneakers, sleeves rolled up, and a quiet determination in his face. We started in the hallway. The walls had been a sickly beige, Rick's favorite. We went over it with clean, warm white. Each stroke felt like an erasure. Not of memories, but of expectations I never signed up for. Do you miss them? Mason asked after a while, dabbing paint along the doorframe. I didn't answer right away. I don't miss who they became, I said. I miss who I thought they were. He nodded. They talk like you betrayed them, but they never talk about how they used you. Because people like them need to be the victim, I said. It's easier than admitting they burned down the house you built for them. I let him stay in the guest room, the same one they locked me out of. Only now, it was clean, warm, with fresh sheets and a desk by the window. I didn't owe him anything, but he had stood on the line, not always strong, not always loud, but eventually he chose. That mattered. One night, I opened the small wooden box I kept in the closet, the one with the final mortgage letter, the first paint swatches I picked when I bought the house, a photo of Dad holding me when I was 5. There was also a letter I'd never opened, one from Dad, written before he passed. I'd found it months ago in a folder labeled "Just in Case," tucked inside his old briefcase Mom never touched. I had never been strong enough to read it, until now. I unfolded the pages. His handwriting was steady, clear. Jenna, if you're reading this, I'm probably not around anymore, but I need you to know something. You're stronger than all of them. You're not just smart. You have grit, a fire. And I know people are going to try to use it. Because people like you are rare, and everyone wants a piece of rare. But don't let them take it from you. Protect your light. Keep your name on the deed. And when they try to lock you out, kick the damn door down. I smiled. My throat burned. Later that week, I changed the Wi-Fi name to She Owns It Now password. Not your house, 2025 It was petty. It was perfect. I repainted the porch, fixed the mailbox, repaired the leak in the bathroom myself. I bought new sheets. I walked barefoot through the house and didn't flinch when the boards creaked. This house wasn't just where I lived now. It was the place I reclaimed. And for the first time since I signed the mortgage, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight, just my own, and it felt light. Spring arrived quietly. the kind of warm, golden spring that seeps into the bones and makes even cracked sidewalks feel hopeful again. Birds nested in the maple outside the living room window. New grass poked through the dirt in the backyard, the same yard Rick once told me wasn't worth planting anything in. I planted daffodils anyway. Mason helped. It had been 2 months since the sheriff posted the notice. Since Rick and Mom drove away without looking back. I hadn't heard from them since. No calls, no emails, no letters. Aunt Teresa mentioned in passing that they were crashing with one of Rick's cousins in a cramped 2-bedroom somewhere across the state line. Rumor was they were planning to start fresh. Good for them. Let them start over. On their dime this time. The house was almost unrecognizable now. Fresh paint inside and out. New window treatments. A coffee table I actually liked. I'd sold off the last of their leftover junk on Facebook Marketplace. Every couch cushion, every chipped dish, every dusty relic of their entitlement. Each sale felt like an exorcism. Every item gone made more room for me. The local paper came by in late April to do a feature on women homeowners under 30. I didn't plan to be interviewed, but one of the real estate agents, the one who handled the listing I almost posted, dropped my name. The reporter asked, "How did you manage to pay off a 30-year mortgage in 5 years?" I told her the truth. I didn't just pay it off. I built this house twice, once with money, and once again when I took it back. She blinked. "Can I quote that?" I smiled. "Please do." Mason moved in full-time by June. We made it official. I added his name to the new lease as a non-rent paying occupant. It wasn't about the money. It was about respect. About giving him the space to grow without guilt. He got a part-time job at a local bookstore, started saving for community college. He even asked me to help him write a personal statement. "I want to study architecture," he said one night at dinner. I looked up, surprised. "Why?" He shrugged. "I want to build things that last." I nodded, tears pricking behind my eyes. "Then you'll need a strong foundation." He smiled. "I've got one." On the 1-year anniversary of taking the house back, I stood alone on the porch with a cup of tea and watched the sunset bleed gold over the rooftops. For the first time in my adult life, I felt still, not waiting to be asked, not waiting to be needed. Just home. The kind of home I didn't have to beg for. The kind of home I chose. The kind of home I reclaimed with blood, grit, silence, and precision. Because they changed the locks. But they forgot who held the deed. And now, the only key that works is mine.